MMA unrivaled. The fighters go viral, the fights go live, the fights go wild. It's the MMA unrivaled. Yeah, MMA unrivaled. When I talk, it's solid. When I talk, it's solid. MMA unrivaled.
Yo, what up, y'all? Welcome back to MMA Unrivaled. Just want to say thank you guys for checking out the last video. I know the audio was a little low on that. I'm going to work on it this week. But, yeah, thank you guys for watching. And, you know, the people who hit me up about the picks. I know a lot of them, we didn't get a lot of them. But it was a good card last week. I was going to drop a recap video for UFC 318, but I didn't get a chance to. I'm gonna try to do that in the future, do a recap video as well as the picks. But I mean, the main event, I'm gonna specifically talk about the main event because that was the big thing. Dustin Poirier, his retirement match, the last dance against Max Holloway. I thought it was a great fight. In the video, I had said I didn't want to pick because I love both of those fighters. They're two of my favorite fighters. Max is my GOAT. I'm wearing the shirt. And I thought it was a great fight. I didn't think it was a robbery or anything. Like, I thought Max won the entire fight. I was talking with my cousin's boyfriend about it during the fight, and I think it was going into the third or fourth, he was saying, I got Max winning 3-0. I believe it was the third or fourth round. He was like, I got Max up 3-0. And I said, yeah, I think he's clearly winning. You could even make an argument for 3-1 at that point in the fight. But yeah, I think Max clearly won it. During the fight, I'm telling my girlfriend because, there was moments, both fighters had great moments in the fight where it could have ended either way. Especially, I believe it was that second round where they both almost finished each other. But I told her, I was like, Max has more to lose here. Dustin, if he wins, cool. He wins. He retires with the BMF belt. He retires with a win for his final fight. But if Max were to lose, it was just like, he's still going to be an active fighter. So that kind of sets him back a bit. So I'm glad that he won. I don't know what's next for him. I know he said he had mentioned Charles Oliveira because he said they have some history, which they do. But that sounds great. That's an interesting fight. And I know a lot of people don't want this, but I want to see Max get a rematch with Ilya this time at lightweight, because I feel like Max is a natural 155er. Like, this is where he should have been. Legendary run at featherweight. But, it's just, I feel like this is where he needs to be. He's got great power in this division. He looks great. I think this is where he needs to be. So, UFC 318 overall was great. I thought, shout out Brendan Allen for that fight, for that win over Marvin Vettori. I thought it was a great fight. Shout out to Michael Johnson. That was great, beating Daniel Zellhuber. I thought that was a good fight. Patricio Pitbull got the win over Dan Ige. That was a pretty solid fight. It was pretty good. He needed a win. Now he's 1-1 in the UFC. But yeah, 318 was great. Also, before we get into the breakdown of this week's card, UFC Fight Night in Abu Dhabi, I wanted to go over, as of recording this, today is Tuesday, July 22nd, and there were some announcements. There were some fight announcements. So Dana White announced today for UFC 320, October 4th, Ankalaev versus Pereira 2. So Alex Pereira is going to get a chance to get his belt back. I hope he can do it. I'll never bet against him. So, who knows? That's going to be a great fight. I'm hoping he can get his lick back. So, we'll see about that one. The next one he announced was Merab versus Corey Sandhagen. Same event, UFC 320, October 4th. That's going to be great. I'm a big Corey Sandhagen fan, but, you know, it's just Merab is so talented. I'm not going to get too much into it. We'll get to it when we get to that card, but I'm very interested in that because I'm a big Corey Sandhagen fan. Also on that same card, Yuri Prohaska versus Khalil Roundtree. That's one that gets me excited. That's gonna be a great fight. Great fight. That's gonna be amazing. I think so far just those 3 fights being announced for that card, banger of a card. So I'm looking forward to that. Also, he announced the main event for UFC 321 on October 25th will be Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane. This fight, I'm not really, it didn't get me that hype. I kind of, everybody was expecting this one to be Tom Aspinall's first title defense. And, I mean, it doesn't really do too much for me personally. I know a lot of people feel the same way, but, I mean, the way the heavyweight division is right now, I mean, what else is there? Where else can you go? So, yeah, Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane. I'm so excited, to see Tom back. So, October 25th, UFC 321. That's going to be pretty good. But besides that, we're here to break down UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi. Robert Whittaker versus Reinier de Ridder, RDR. This is a great card. This card is super stacked. 318 was good, but this one is looking to be, it could possibly be better, and it's a free one. This is a fight night. So I'm super excited for it. I'm ready to break this down. Hopefully it goes better than last week's picks, and we can make some money off this. So let's get right into it. First up, we got Martin Buday versus Marcus Buchecha. Buchecha is a very, very high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's got incredible grappling. He's the man. He's been working on his striking, but I don't even think he really needs it. When he's got such great wrestling and just world-class jiu-jitsu. He's going up against Martin Buday, who he does have some grappling, but I just don't think he's up to the same level as Buchecha. I don't think a lot of people are, though. This one, for me, it's clear why Buchecha is the favorite. He's a minus 290. I'll take Buchecha by submission, first round, possibly second round. Give me Marcus Buchecha on this one. Next up, we got Muhammad Yahya versus Stephen Nguyen. This fight is sort of, two guys who are, they're okay. They're good. I know a lot of people don't like Muhammad. I've heard a lot of people say that he isn't UFC level and just overall should not be in the UFC at all, especially, after being 0-2 in the UFC so far. But he is going up against Stephen Nguyen, who only has one fight in the UFC so far, which was a loss back in March of 2024, and he hasn't fought since. And, I mean, he's a big favorite. He's a minus 300 right now. And, now he does have some solid ground game. He's got some good cardio. He is a volume puncher, but really nothing too flashy or amazing about his skill set. That makes him a standout for me. But I mean, you could really say that about both of them. But I will be taking Stephen Nguyen on this one. I'll take him by decision. And right now he's a minus 300. So yeah, give me Stephen Nguyen on this one. Next up, we got Ibo Aslan versus Billy Elikana. Aslan has a lot of power. He's got good takedown defense. For the most part, he did do his fight camp out of Dagestan this time, I've seen. So maybe that will play a factor somehow, and maybe he picked up some stuff there that he can implement to his game this time around. But he's going up against Billy Elikana, who has some decent striking, and, he's got some ground game, but I think the power of Ibo will be what settles this fight. Honestly, I think I'll take Ibo Aslan by KO/TKO. Right now he's sitting at a -265, so he's the favorite. But yeah, I just don't see Billy Alikana really having an answer for that. For the striking, for the power, and then, like I said, he's training in Dagestan. Maybe he's picked up some stuff he can implement on the ground. Yeah, I just see this sort of not one-sided, but I can really see this going to Ibo Aslan. Next up, we got Amanda Rivas versus Tabitha Ricci. I really like Tabitha Ricci a lot, and I really want to pick her here. But I personally think Rivas is the better striker here. But I do feel she does get hit a lot. But I'm not sure if Ricci really has that power to hurt her if she does catch her with something. I don't know if she can take her out. And if it does go to the ground, both are very good on the ground. But I still would give the edge to Rivas on that. This could be a very competitive fight. I'm not counting Ricci out completely at all. Like I said, I'm a fan. But I personally feel Rivas is just a little bit better. You know, like I said, the striking, the ground game. But yeah, I just think she has that slight edge. But like I'm saying, I wouldn't fully count out Tabitha Ricci on this one. If you wanted to go with the dog on that, I ain't mad at it. Me personally, I'm gonna go Amanda Rivas on this one. She is sitting at a -185 as of recording this right now. Next up, we got Damon Blackshear versus Davy Grant. Damon Blackshear has great grappling, but he's a grappler like a lot of other grapplers and wrestlers who has seemed to have fallen in love with his striking. He's been wanting to stand more, which could be a mistake against Davy Grant because Davy, he doesn't have the best grappling defense. So if Damon can just focus on the ground game and not try to go out there and strike, I think he wins this fight 9 times out of 10. 10 times out of 10 possibly. But if he continues to do this and just strikes with him, I think Davey could pose a problem for him there. He has a very awkward style that, is just sort of tricky. So I think Damon Blackshear's best chance and why he's a -310 is that ground game. So I think if he uses that, if he sticks to that plan and doesn't, want to just stand and bang, I think he comes off with the win here. So I'm going to take him by submission. He is a -310 as of today. Heavy favorite, not heavy favorite, but a pretty big favorite. A lot of this card are a bunch of heavy favorites. But I'm going to take him on this one by submission. Next up, we got Carlos Leal versus Muslim Salikov. Carlos Leal has great striking, and he puts the pressure on guys. That's what he did to Alex Morono, where he got that first round finish. And I think that's what he's going to have to do against Muslim on this one. Right out of the gate, just put that pressure on him, swing for the fences, slow him down, and I think he gets the finish. I like Carlos Leal on this one by KO. Simple as that. He's a heavy favorite, -455 right now. Yeah, and I'm taking him by KO. Next up, we got Bryce Mitchell versus Saeed Nurmagomedov. This is an interesting fight because Bryce is dropping down to bantamweight in this fight, and this is a matchup where Bryce, he could get some takedowns. He's got the jiu-jitsu, and he could possibly get some control time on the ground. But Saeed has some great striking, and he can handle his own on the ground. He's not primarily a wrestler or anything, despite his last name. But he could catch your neck sometimes. And the way Bryce goes in for takedown sometimes, he could catch him. He could catch him in a guillotine. He could get a hold of your neck and then the fight, which, like I said, Bryce does leave his neck exposed a bit sometimes when he's going in for those takedowns. So if he does that, then Saeed is going to catch him with a guillotine or something, like he did to Gofurov. Overall, it's like the UFC is really throwing Bryce into the wolves, for his first fight at bantamweight. It could be punishment for the whole thing. You guys know what he said, what he did. But I don't know. It could be that. That could be the conspiracy. But they're not doing him any favors with this fight. Even though Bryce is the slight favorite, Maybe the line can change throughout the week. But I think Saeed's striking is going to be a problem. He's really technical, really precise, really great with the striking. So all that being said, I'll take Saeed Nurmagomedov on this one by KO. Honestly, and I think getting him as a dog, even though it's a plus 110, I'll take that all day. Give me Saeed Nurmagomedov by KO in the second. Next up, we got Nikita Krylov versus Bogdan Guskov. This is another interesting fight. Guskov has some power. He has some finishes over Ryan Spann and Zach Pauga. He also has the submission win over Billy Alicana. But Krylov, to me, has a grappling advantage over Guskov. But if Krylov decided to stand and bang, then yeah, Krylov could most likely get knocked out. He does get hit and has been getting hurt a lot. So if Krylov can take it to the ground, I can see him coming out with the win. But I think Guskov's striking could be what gets him the advantage here. Gets him the win. I think I'm gonna go with the dog again on this one. I'm gonna take Guskov on this by KO. He is a plus 150. I think that's a great line. I'm taking it. So give me Guskov by KO on this one. Next up, we got Jose Ochoa versus Asu Almabayev. This has potential to be fight of the night. This is a great matchup. Jose Ochoa has great striking. He has some grappling. He has some chokes. But Almabayev has great grappling too. But his striking isn't as good as Ochoa. Ochoa is a beast, man. He's a monster. And he'll sit there. He'll trade shots. He'll throw hands. And, I think Almabayev will try to take it to the ground. And if Ochoa can stuff the takedowns, if he can get away, if he can get back to the feet, then, I think he can win this. I think Almabayev could get some takedowns for sure. But Ochoa can get back to the feet. I think he can get it to where he wants the fight to be. I think he can knock him out, that's pretty much how I see the fight going. He can get taken down, get back up, keep it where he wants it, make Almabayev fight his fight. So I'm going to take Jose Ochoa on this one. Minus 105 right now, but this is really a pick'em. As of today, Almabayev is a minus 115. So it's a pretty even fight, but I see the advantage going to Jose Ochoa. Next up, we got another one I'm excited for. Shara Bullet Magomedov versus Marc-Andre Barriault. Shara Bullet coming off of the loss to MVP back in February. Now he's here against Marc-Andre Barriault. And, Shara is a heavy favorite right now. He's a minus 625, which is crazy. This fight does sort of feel like a layup, for him. Barriault is coming off of a win against Bruno Silva, but before that, he got finished by Dustin Stoltzfus and Joe Pyfer. Some say he's washed. I don't know. That's, I'm not going to get into all of that. Some say he's washed, but I think that's why he's a plus 455 dog in this fight. Like I said, this does sort of feel like a layup to get Shara back in that win column, and I don't see it going any other way besides Shara on this one. I think that's exactly what's going to happen is Marc-Andre is going to try to stand and strike with him. And, if he does, we've seen what Shara could do with the strikes. I really see Shara Bullet getting that KO. Man, I'll take Shara Nurmagomedov by KO, sitting at a minus 625. So, you're not going to make much on this. But I don't really see it going Marc-Andre's way. This, to me, is a lock. This is my lock of the week. It would be Shara Bullet by KO. Next up, the co-main event of the night, Petr Yan versus Marcus McGee. Petr Yan is coming off wins against Song Yadong and Davison Figueiredo. He's the number 3 ranked bantamweight in the UFC. Marcus McGee, he's ranked number 13 right now. And this is a huge opportunity for him. He's got a lot of hype around him, but he hasn't fought the level of competition that Yan has. And, he is a good fighter. He's a great fighter. He's got some finishes. He's talented. But this feels like a bit of a mismatch to me. You know, I just think Petr Yan is a lot better than Marcus McGee. I think his pressure, his striking, you know, they're top notch. I think, you know, his resume speaks for itself. He's fought the who's who in bantamweight. You know, I see Yan getting his hand raised at the end of this. You know, he's a heavy favorite, minus 375. I don't see him getting the finish. It's possible, but to play it safe, I take Petr Yan by decision. You know, either way, I think, you know, he's the former champ, man. I just don't, not to take anything away from Marcus McGee. Like I said, he's great. He's a great fighter. I don't see him beating Petr Yan, at least right now. So give me Petr Yan on this one, minus 375. Give me him by decision. And finally, the main event, Robert Whittaker versus Renier de Ridder, RDR, versus Bobby Knuckles. You know, both of these guys are fan favorites. Robert Whittaker, former champion. You know, he's been in the game for a while. He's coming off that loss against Hamzat back at UFC 308 in October of last year. Before that, you know, he beat Ikram Aliskerov by KO. It was a great finish. And, you know, he's going up against RDR, who's got a lot of hype around him. You know, he beat Kevin Holland back in January by submission in round 1. And most recently, he beat Bo Nickel by TKO, you know, who was another fan favorite who's being hyped up. And RDR put a stop to the hype train, it seems. You know, that's great. But in other fights, he seemed to get gassed a bit. You know, I don't want to say he gives up or quits, but he kind of be out of it a bit. You know, he is a talented fighter. He's a great fighter, but this is a huge jump in competition going up against Whittaker. You know, someone who, besides being taken down by Hamzat, you know, who has world-class wrestling, you know, he doesn't really get taken down a lot. You know, and RDR, he doesn't have the level of wrestling that Hamzat does. You know, but he does have some grappling. You know, he has some grappling, and if he wants to win, I think he needs to, you know, take it to the ground early, because if he doesn't and he keeps it standing, he will just get outclassed by Whittaker, 100%. You know, he has the advantage when it comes to striking. Whittaker is just, he's so great. He's so precise with his striking. And, you know, I think, you know, if RDR can get a submission in the first round or two, and, you know, that could be his only way of winning, that icy, you know. But if the fight keeps going, if the fight goes on, Robert Whittaker in those later rounds is just dangerous, man. I could see him getting finished by Robert Whittaker. So for the main event, I gotta go Bobby Knuckles, man. I'm going Robert Whittaker by KO. I'd say KO in the third. Give me Robert Whittaker on this one. He is a favorite, minus 162 right now. But how can I not go with Bobby Knuckles, man? But yeah, those are our picks for UFC Fight Night in Abu Dhabi. I believe this one is on ABC. This is going to be a stat card. I'm excited for it. And it's early. I love the early cards, man. This starts at, I believe, 9 a.m. my time. It's going to be great. So I get to watch it before we head over to our birthday party this weekend. So super excited. This is a great card. Thank you, everybody, for watching. These are going to progressively get better, I hope. So stick around. You know, let's try to get this money together. Thank you, guys. See you in the next one.